Today's guest is one of the most consistent and calculated racers in the world, with a 100% finish rate and the most starts of anybody in the history of Enduro. Born in Dublin and growing up through the moto and trial scene with his dad, Greg Callaghan's path into mountain biking wasn't exactly your typical one. From racing locally in Ireland to taking the jump onto the international stage, he's seen the sport grow from those early, undefined days into what it is now. With over 90 finishes, along with multiple wins, podiums, he's been in the mix through every phase of the Enduro World Series. In this episode, we get into that journey, how the sport has changed, the reality of making it work as a rider, and who Greg is beyond the bike. Welcome to the podcast, Greg Callaghan. All right, Greg, how are you?
Yeah, good, doing well.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, that's good. It was a pretty special day out there. It was pretty sunny and nice blue skies.
Yeah. I seem to have timed my trip quite nicely. I think there's been quite a bit of rain in the region this winter, spring, and since I've been here, it's been beautiful sun. We had one wet day yesterday, but trails are perfect today.
Yeah, full hero dirt.
Yeah, it's sick. Yeah.
So how long have you been out here? Because you were down in California for a little bit, and then out here.
Yeah, so I went down to California to visit IBIS HQ and did Sea Otter, my first Sea Otter, so that was cool. And then flew up to Canada and spent a few days on the island, which was sick. Never been out there. It was beautiful. It was really, really nice.
Yeah, the riding over there is insane.
Yeah.
Whereabouts on the island were you?
We were based in Duncan, but rode Zuhalem, Broken Bridge, and I can't remember the name of the third place.
Maybe Prevost?
No, didn't get to Prevost.
Okay.
Somewhere near Nanaimo.
Yeah, okay.
But everything was insane.
Yeah, the riding is just next level over there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's more racer tracks over there versus over here are more sort of that free ride, big rocky slabs.
Yeah, and it was a nice intro actually into BC terrain for me because we didn't do anything too crazy, and then you come here to Squamish and you can get pretty crazy if you want.
Oh yeah, it's very easy to jump from like a basic trail into something, and you're like, I'm halfway down this like 45-degree rock slab and I'm not stopping. Like
yeah. Like we were just riding this afternoon with like real good crew of riders, Elliot Jemison, Jesse Melamed, and Leif Rogers, and Johnny Helly, and everyone was just crazy. But there was a couple of times we got to like the top of rocks, and I was like, that's just a cliff, like that's not for bikes. And then like Leif would be like, it's fine, and he rode down it. I was just like, no.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, the like riding down the rock is less scary for me. It's more the G out at the bottom. Like I look at some of these things that they ride down and I'm like, sure, like I can get down stuff like that, but if I G out at the bottom, I feel like I'm just headbutting the handlebars. Like I don't know. Yeah. They're so insane, some of the guys. Like,
and it's such a like different approach to riding for me. Because like in Ireland and Europe where I'm from, like trails are kind of built for everyone, and the better you are, you can ride it faster, or you find a nice line or a nice little gap on the trail, but like it's nothing crazy.
Yeah.
And you're rarely scared unless you just went too fast or did something yourself. Whereas here, like the scale of gnarliness just goes forever. Like there's stuff that's built for one or two people to hit. And yeah, like the few days I've been here, it's been a week now, like I've been scared more times than, and I haven't even been doing anything crazy, but there's still moments where you're like, whoa, this is spicy.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you that in the sense of like the riding in Ireland, as you just mentioned, is like kind of, I feel more like how the riding is in Australia, and in a sense of like the trails get hard to a certain point and then they just like not chill out, but like they just pause at a certain point and then you just ride them faster until you can't ride them any faster type situation. Versus here, as you say, just endless possibilities of getting harder. How do you approach something like that? Like I feel like from where you are, your riding level, obviously you're one of the best in the world at the end of the day. Like where does your mental aspect look at that?
Yeah, I think I know my place, I guess. And I know I'm good at certain things, but like that's not my thing.
Yeah.
So when we get to gnarly stuff, I'm perfectly fine with just being like, nah, that's not for me. And, staying within my my zones of what I know I can do and I know is safe, especially now, like we're coming into the season, like I don't need to press anyone riding any crazy rock rolls or anything. So yeah, I'm happy to stay in my box, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I could see how you could easily get carried away, especially when you're with people who are familiar with this stuff and are just doing it.
Yeah.
You could be like, oh, he did it, I'll do it, that's fine, but that's just not me.
Yeah, it's always one of those things, and I always find, and I hear people getting caught up in that so often, where it's like, oh yeah, like if we're on the World Cup circuit or we're doing this or we're doing that, my skill level is equal or better to what the people I'm riding with. But then you go to their home trail and they do some gnarly gap or some gnarly rock slab and you're like, yeah, it should be sweet, but it's like so different, as you say.
Yeah, and it's so cool to be here and see that too.
Yeah,
and step out of your comfort zone a little bit and just see unfamiliar terrain, especially when all these guys come to Europe and we race and they talk about it. So it's cool to be here and getting shown around by them.
So is this your first time in Squamish, or have you been here a couple of times? Or
I've been here a few times, but mainly when I've been in this area, it's been for the Whistler race, Crankworks. And I've passed through Squamish for maybe a day or two.
Okay.
And just done like a ride, a pretty chill ride.
Yeah,
so
like a shakedown type of situation.
Yeah, exactly. So I haven't done much. So yeah, to be here for this, like it'll be 10 days by the time I leave.
Yeah,
10,
nice.
11 days. That's a nice stint to explore. And it's so funny because you get here and it's same, anytime you travel with biking, people tell you of all the places you should go.
Yeah.
So you get here and people are like, oh, you need to go to Pemby, you need to go here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I'm actually trying to stay in Squamish this time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like the whole Sea to Sky from, you can go further than North Van, but let's say North Van all the way through to Pemberton is just like, it's Wonderland for bikes kind of thing.
Yeah. Disneyland for grown-ups, really.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and then once Whistler's open and that whole valley, it's just insane.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go back. I kind of want to ask you a bit about your transition into mountain biking. Obviously, you grew up with motorbikes, a few things like that. Was the bikes, like the bicycles, always there, or did they kind of come in at a different age, or
Yeah, I think the bicycles were always there, but it was more as a toy, you could say, as a kid. Like I grew up with my dad and my uncles racing motorbikes. My dad was motorbike enduro. Most of my uncles were trials.
Yeah.
So I was surrounded by that the whole time. And I got my first motorbike at 4.
Yeah.
But you could only ride that when my dad took me out.
100%.
And you were in a certain area where you could do it, whereas I'd come home from school and I'd pick up a bicycle and just go mess around outside the house or in the estate and just find things to jump off and all that. So it was always there. And then I did trials from when I was 8 until I was like 16, 17. But when I was 15, a guy in my school that I like would mess around on bikes with, he had, I think, a cousin was home from Canada.
Okay.
Actually from like this region, which is quite funny. And he had like gotten into downhill mountain biking and he like found out about these jumps. And he was like, oh, you should come to the jumps, like if you like bikes. And we went to the jumps a few times, and then like I met some people there my age that were into mountain biking, and they were like, "Oh, you should come to the mountains and go mountain biking." And then that was it, really. Then it kind of went from like at the weekends being like, "Come on, let's go ride trials bikes, to like doing more and more on the mountain bike.
Yeah,
and just gradually transitioned into mountain bikes.
I feel like I had a very similar upbringing in the sense of like same thing. Like I think I got my first motorbike when I was like 3 or 4 type. Situation, and then every day after school, it was like literally one Christmas, me and all the friends got given a shovel each to go build jumps for Christmas type thing. And it's like exactly as you said, like it was always there just to pass the time when you couldn't go motorbike riding. And then eventually, like, and I don't know how it was for you, but for me it was like I actually had quite a big injury. I dislocated my hip and I started riding the mountain bikes just to rehab, and then it eventually progressed into being so much more accessible than all the motorbike stuff. And then
because motorbiking, like, it's amazing, but it's not just going out for an hour, is it?
No, it's a whole day.
Yeah, it's a whole day, exactly. Whereas the bike, you can literally come home from school or whatever and go for an hour.
Yeah.
And that, like where we lived, was just on the edge of Dublin, at the bottom of the Dublin Mountains, so I could so quickly be on trails.
Yeah.
So it was just so accessible,
Yeah, as I say, it's pretty wild. So then, as you started to progress further into the mountain bike side of things, where did that take you? Like I looked back a bit on the Instagram side of things, and I feel like you were in that same world, like that sort of 2006, 2007 sort of world of like party mountain bike when like Kavarak and Rennie and all those guys, and then I guess Sam was sort of on the world stage at that point.
Yeah, he was peak, really.
Yeah. Like, how was that for you growing up in that world, and also being in that world of like starting to transition into the sort of international side of things? Because I guess for you, being in Ireland, it's like fairly close to Europe where a lot of that racing was happening.
Yeah. It was a pretty sick generation to be a fan.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first race I watched like on TV was we all went around to my friend's house and we watched 2007 Fort William World Champs.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I just remember like Sam bending his crank and
yeah,
like it was just it was exciting to watch. And then you would get the DVDs, you know, Earthed and all these, and there was so much excitement around when you got that and when you got to see these people ride in video. So yeah, that kind of made me race more and more. Gave me the goo for that. And I guess first international. The thing in Ireland is like it's a fairly small pond. So like I was relatively quickly onto the Irish team and went to World Champs. European Champs in Slovenia, and that was my first race outside of Ireland, I think, if I remember right. No, so I'd raced a little bit in Wales and maybe Scotland, but it was my first race. Yeah, international race.
Yeah,
and that was a massive eye opener. It was crazy. Like I remember my seeding run, there was always Davy Graham was a guy that I'd always battled in like under 16, and he was always beating me. And in the first seeding run, he like absolutely smoked me. I was like, oh, what the hell? And then I just got like, I found another gear in my race run and went like 15 seconds quicker. It was crazy.
Yeah,
and that was like the catalyst of like, oh, this is how you race.
Yeah,
like you can actually push it. And like I had just been so smooth before and like reserved in my race runs, so that was kind of a big click. And then I raced a few downhill World Cups unsuccessfully. Did like a couple of Fort Williams, a couple of Leo Gangs, did Leo Gang World Champs, Champri World Champs. But it's quite funny in hindsight. At the time I thought I was trying really hard and training hard and doing things well, and now that I've actually trained properly for enduro, I'm like, oh man, I was so half-assed back then. So like it's no wonder I wasn't getting any results, you know. But where I lived, it suited so well for enduro riding, and I would love just riding from my house up to the mountain. So like if we were going downhill riding, I would start from home and ride to whatever spot. Yeah. And in hindsight, like I was doing enduro. Yeah. You know, I can now see that. But at the time, I was like, oh no, I'm just going to that downhill spot that's 30k way over 2 mountains. Yeah.
And you're just like, literally recreating enduro before it even happened type situation.
Yeah, and it was just mountain biking, really. Yeah. And at the same time, like any race that was on, I would do it. Like if there was a cross-country race, I would just go and do it. And if there was a downhill race, I would do that as well. So then when enduro did start to show up, and I think it was 2012 was the first year the Irish Series happened, I was just like, this is perfect. Like this is what I do anyway. And like having grown up watching my dad race moto enduro, it also appealed to me on that side too. So it was kind of straight away just like, this is for me. This is the riding I want to do. Yeah,
I was going to ask you about that. How, because essentially you've raced every year that there's been an EWS or EWR or whatever they want to call it these days. But it's crazy to think like how early on that you're in on that, and almost very specifically on that. Never really had, like you said, you raced a few downhills and things like that, but as soon as it came around, you very much were like hardcore in that world.
Yeah, as I say, it just straight away it just resonated with me, and it was what I wanted to do. And we were fortunate in Ireland too that Niall Davis, the organizer of the races, he was kind of ahead of the curve, and that year the Irish Series was one of the biggest series. And like the first race we had Jerome Clements, Nico Lowe, Joe Barnes, like all these international riders that he reached out to and brought them to the race. So like straight away it was on the map, you know. So then my first year racing enduro, I was racing the world's best on my home trails. So that was such a motivating factor and such a like catalyst to make me be like, right, there's something here. And I remember like one of the races, Renee Wildhaber came, Joe Barnes, Tracy Mosley, and her husband James Barnes at the time. And they like after the race, like I think I was third behind Joe and Renee, and they kind of had a word with me and just like, oh, you should you should try this.
You should, yeah.
You should push on a bit. And then, sure enough, EWS came around the following year, and I kind of, you could say I had a bit of a head start, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, no. So once the EWS started, what did that look like for you? I know, thinking back and like essentially living on the other side of the world, they were trying to do the enduro thing in Australia, but it was, I would say, a little hit and miss. There was a couple of good promoters that, same sort of thing, started to build out these, they called it Superflow, I think it was, in Australia before they really hooked onto the enduro side of things. But as you started to progress into that World Cup side of things, how did that look in the environment? Like, I feel like there was so many, because it's a new, let's call it a new sport or a new discipline, without it being a new sport, there were so many crossovers. Like, you had like Gravesy from the downhill, like, and everything else he did, like yourself, like you had Jerome Clemens, and
like even
there was
Nino Schurter,
even Nino,
he did a couple,
like
maybe one.
I feel like there was just so much crossover from all these other disciplines, and fairly high up people in that too. Like, like you look at some of the start lists from that first year, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, how did that feel? Because I know, turning up to some of the races that I raced, it was like you would stand next to Sam, or you'd stand next to some of these other guys that you've watched on like live TV racing mountain bikes. Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, same. Like, it felt like you were just standing beside giants. Like, I remember the first prologue, in Punta Ala, which was the first ever stage, and it was like a stage through the town. It was really cool. I remember queuing up in practice beside Gravesy and just being like, oh my god, that's Jared Graves.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was such a buzz around it at the start. It was so cool. And like, yeah, so many riders were intrigued by it. And I think as well, the other disciplines, downhill and cross country, were a little less pigeonholed maybe than they are right now. So people had time in their programs, because now, like, you know, they're searching for every 1%, so they're not going to spend a free weekend racing an enduro. Whereas back then it was like, oh yeah, this is fun, probably decent training, I'll just go and do it. And brands were also excited, so they were supporting them to go and do it as well. So yeah, the buzz was real, for sure.
Yeah. Did you have much of an interest in going back to the downhill in those early days, or are you pretty set on the enduro, like pretty excited by it?
No, it's never really appealed to me, to be honest. Enduro is just for me. Like, I'm fully just an enduro rider, and there's been definitely time, like with, you know, Martin going across and Richie going across and doing well, and there's definitely people have said like, oh, would you try some downhills? And I've always been like, it's just, I'm an enduro rider, I don't need to try be a downhill rider. And there has been times when I've been tempted. You know, I had a downhill bike a few years ago, and I thought about doing the last couple of World Cups, but it didn't really work out. And I'm sure it would have been fun, but at the same time, I think it'd maybe be naive of me to think that I could get a bike, spend a month on it, and compete with these guys that are, you know, the best in the world, and they're so refined with their setup and everything with those bikes. Whereas I feel like for me, when I get on a downhill bike, I have the same ceiling as I do on my enduro bike of speed. Yeah. Because I haven't learned what the bike is capable of, you know.
Yeah, I would have to say the same thing, in the sense of like, yes, obviously you can go faster and all the rest of it, but, and I know talking with a bunch of other top level enduro racers at the moment, is just like, your eye speed isn't there, like the precision isn't there. Like, yes, technically you're racing at 100% when you're racing enduro, but there isn't that like fine-tuned like precision, I feel. Yeah. And like, that's the difference.
Yeah, and like, I've done shuttle days with downhill guys over the years, plenty, and you know, the first 1, 2, 3, 4 runs, I'll be like, oh, this is sweet, like I can keep up, I'm doing pretty well, but then they just keep going. You know, the 5th, the 6th, 7th run, they just keep getting faster and faster, and I'll probably have that 4th, 5th run pace all day, and that's, I can ride it all day, but I would struggle to find that extra gear that they would.
Do you find that there would be anything you could do to change that, or do you think that's just how you're built yourself out now?
Yeah, I'm sure like you can change everything, but I think it would be hard to change. Yeah. I think even in enduro, that's kind of my style, is consistency over craziness, maybe. Yeah, some of those one-off lines and things like that. Yeah, like I'll quite often have, you know, pretty clean stages and races. Yeah. And sometimes you're like, I wish I could just hang it out a bit more, but then I also haven't had too many injuries and track record's pretty good, so it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, well, like, I have to look into the guy that created that website that's just popped up in the past couple of days. But it was like, what was it? 91 starts out of 95 races total.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I've missed 4. I missed the first year I didn't go to North America, so I missed 2. I just didn't have the money. And then 2015, I missed San Juan for I broke my hand. And 2019, I missed Madeira, broke my foot.
Yeah, which is like
otherwise all good.
Insane. like when you say consistency, like I'm a big moto follower and things like that, and it's like you hear all these stats of like, oh yeah, such and such has like made it to X amount of main events and whatever else, and like I hear that stat and I'm like, that's insane. Like that's a 99% like start rate.
Yeah. And the thing I'm kind of more proud of is it's 100% finish rate too.
Yeah.
So I've never had a DNF.
Yeah.
Which, is quite mad because there's definitely been times when I probably could have, probably should have.
yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Talking about like hanging it out and things like that, when some of the riders are coming across, I'm thinking of like people like Jack Moyer and those guys that are sort of that downhill background and like top level downhill background. How do you see their progression? Like when you've obviously ridden in the enduro side of things for so long, you've seen people come and go. Like Sam was another big one that like essentially changed the game on how you can ride an enduro bike, I feel. Like how do you see that from your end, being in the game so much?
Yeah, it's always been interesting because enduro's always had such a variety of riders. Like if you put Jesse Melamed, Jack Moore, Richie Rood, Sam Hill all beside each other, they're different physical builds to begin with, and they would ride a track so differently in how they would see a trail, but they could all finish on the same second.
Yeah,
it's so bizarre. So like definitely people come, and Sam was a great example of he came and he takes different lines, he rides in a different way, and then everyone just starts thinking like, oh yeah, we need to inside everything, we need to ride flat pedals. But it's his style and it's what he's so good at, and he made things look so easy was the his
riding style is insane. Like I remember watching one video and it was I can't remember which race it was, but it was a super muddy race and he insided the corner and there was like a big pallet on the outside and everyone was using the pallet as like a wall ride almost.
Yeah, Colombia.
Yeah. And there's like, that was an insane.
That was so sick. Yeah.
But
he's definitely had some impressive ones, and one that stands out for me was Whistler, and I still think it's maybe the gnarliest stage we've ever done. It was top of the world into Ride Don't Slide. So it was like 12-13 minutes, but it was so gnarly and steep and compressions. And like I remember, like most of us took our goggles off because for me I was sweating inside the goggles, and then when you're hitting compressions, the sweat's going on your lens.
Yeah,
so you have to take them off. And then at the bottom, there's all these like doubles compressions that you normally would be trying to double and get the flow and pump and accelerate. And I remember being so fatigued that I was death gripping and trying my hardest to case these doubles, slow down without braking.
Yeah,
it was crazy. And we got to the bottom of the stage. We were over at the feed zone, and someone came over and was like, "Oh, do you want to know the times?" And she was like, "Yeah." We were like, "Yeah, go on." And she said, "Oh, Sam, you won the stage by 17 seconds." And he had just been complaining about how bad he rode the track. And he's like, I had to take my goggles off. I did this, I did that. And he just looked at us and he was like, what were you guys doing? We were just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing that happened after that was we got to the top of the next stage. And so Jesse Melamed was obviously the local and kind of the, one of the picks for the race, you could say. And no one else knew the times. And he was like, oh, did anyone hear the times? And I was like, oh yeah, Sam won the stage by 17 seconds. And I just saw Sam look at me and I was like, oh crap, I shouldn't have said that. And then like me and Sam walked back to get our bikes and he was just like, why'd you tell him that?
Yeah, because now he's going to hang it out.
And Jesse won the next stage by almost the same.
Really?
And brought the back gap and they went on to have a battle.
Wow.
And it was so funny. It was a good
How is the mental games? Like, because I feel like the way that the media sort of portrays the transitions and I know talking with a lot of the guys, everyone's like, oh yeah, it's so fun, everyone's like pretty chill, everyone chats and blah blah blah, but I feel like there has to be some form of mental games, like knowing, like I grew up quite fairly close to where Jack grew up and Jack's mechanic is going to be my best man at the wedding, and like so knowing Jack and knowing how he operates, and then a few of the other guys, like surely there has to be some mental games on the transitions, or it's pretty chill.
Honestly, it's really chill. Yeah, I think we're all really good mates, and I think we all respect that we're racing against the clock on the track.
Yeah.
And there really, over the years, hasn't been many rivalries, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I think people have different strengths and weaknesses for sure, and people have different approaches, but generally, you'll see someone will get a mechanical and their competitors will be the first to help them and fix the bike, and it's a really cool thing about the sport, to be fair. I think, there's maybe a little bit when you do get some battles, especially as the season goes on. Maybe some stuff starts to creep in, but in general, it's very chill. One funny thing I always notice is going up to stage one of a race is always the quietest time of the weekend.
Yeah.
Everyone's quiet, keeps to themselves, just like going through their process to build up to be ready for stage one. And then once that stage is over, the next liaisons, everyone's just chatting, having a laugh. And
once the ice is broken almost.
Yeah, the tension's kind of gone then,
Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting when I even remember sitting on the bus, like doing shuttles with like the racing and the downhill side of things. It was always the same. Like the first run of practice, everyone's like, and like almost like deer in headlights waiting for the penny to drop, and then it definitely changes for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting, yeah. But no, I can't say I've seen too many mind games over the years. I think maybe, no, not a whole lot.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of always wondered that, because as I say, it's always portrayed as very like friendly and chill, and as I say, even like talking to a lot of the riders, no one's really, and when I say talking to a lot of riders, like at that level of that sort of top 10 level, you're all riding with each other at the end of the day, and essentially it's kind of like going on a big group ride.
Yeah, it is. And to be fair, you could be tricked into thinking everyone is just relaxed and carefree and just kind of letting things happen, but the more you kind of watch people, you realize they're doing little things to get themselves ready. They might quietly go and watch a GoPro or do some breath work or whatever it is, and everyone is focused and doing what they need to do to be ready, but I wouldn't say there's people trying to interfere with other people.
Yeah.
Mental side.
Yeah, a little different to what I hear Jackson and Loic going through at the moment. Well, when they were going through last year.
Yeah.
I heard some mind games happening there for sure.
Right. Yeah, but the mental side of that sport is so big. Yeah. And it's, well, in that case, it was very much a head-to-head scenario, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was an insane season. Pretty excited for this weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, I want to ask you a bit about your team and creating your own team, building everything around you versus what you've done in the past with like a bunch of the factory teams. How did that come about? Obviously, you needed to build a team to go racing essentially at the end of the day, but was there much of a decision to do that, or is kind of just brought upon you with the way sponsorship was happening, because obviously COVID and things were happening, and how?
It was a bit of both. Yeah, it was kind of circumstantial. Like obviously the team I was on, Da Vinci, closed down, and then I went looking. There was I'd had some kind of tough years in that setup and was really keen to get my best out the following season, so I wasn't just writing emails to every team out there. I was kind of selecting what bike I wanted to ride and what people I want around me. And the teams I did contact just weren't keen, really, whether there wasn't a spot or they just didn't see it in me. So that didn't work out. And then I was like, right, I'm not going to go ride for a team that I don't think I can perform on. So I want to be on a bike I know I can perform on. And I kind of selected a few bikes. And when I reached out to Ibis, they were really quick to be like, yeah, we can't promise a whole lot, but like for sure we can help you. And it was me going to them saying I want to ride your bike. It wasn't saying I need this much money to do it. It was very much this is the bike I want to be on. Yeah. And we had chatted over the years before about joining a team and stuff, but it just never had lined up. So it was it became a pretty easy choice. That was the brand, and then I set about getting other sponsors around that to kind of get the budget up to go racing and make that happen. And it was quite a lot of work at first, but to be fair, since then it's been really good, and it's been really cool as well to have relationships direct with the brands, because when you're on a team, it goes through the team manager, and the chain of communication doesn't always go the whole way through. So it's quite nice to actually get to speak to brands and build those relationships. And it's been really, really interesting. And yeah, I think it also fits enduro, and I think it fits enduro now, but I think it always has in a way to have a smaller setup. Like I think back to, I think like 2016, 17, 18, Adrian Dailly with Lapierre it was him and his mechanic.
Yeah.
And sometimes his coach would be there as well. And it was just them in a rental van, and they could shuttle themselves easily. They could, the mechanic was focused on one bike, and it was just really efficient, because in enduro, you go to a venue and you're all over the valley, you're all over the place. So having a big truck and a big pit just doesn't really make sense. You don't use it. So yeah, it really made sense for me. And it's worked out well, yeah.
I feel like it must be way more relaxing. I know talking to Elliot with what he went through, and now he's on the whole Specialized deal, but he was talking about how he went back to the small van, back to the easy, just like centered everything around himself. Like, it took so much pressure off not having the big truck there.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it's given me so much more accountability. Yeah. Because when you're on a team, your team camps and your testing and your preparation is kind of in someone else's hands. And if it's not done correctly, you're just like, oh, well, such and such we didn't do this camp, so we're not prepared, whatever. Whereas now I'm like, oh, I want to test tires. I'll just go and do it. Yeah. I want to test suspension. I want a good weather riding camp. I just go and do it, And it's made me really look more into the kind of holistic package of my performance with the bike and my training and everything. And I think it's made me like step up on that side of things, because it's all on me. Like I can't go to a race and blame anyone else. Like it's all on me. So I need to leave no stone unturned. Yeah, for sure. How have you seen the bike evolve? Because like obviously, well, I even know a lot of it has evolved, but like over the years, like how, and then into now, like you're talking about, you've built the team around what you want to do and parts that you want to ride and frames and things like that. Like, how do you feel like your bikes in the past have sort of compared to what you wanted to ride to what you can now ride now? Because essentially you can pick and choose whatever in that sense. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, so I've actually kept a bike each year. So I have, since 2013, I have one of every bike I've raced. Basically. Oh, sick. So like when I go home, like there's a 26-inch enduro bike there, and I sit on it. I'm like, oh my god, this is a BMX. Yeah. And then like 2015, the bike I got my first win on was a 650B with a 435 reach. Yeah. And like now I have a 480 reach, so like it's tiny. Yeah. So I think like geometry and wheel size, of course, has changed, but I think the one that's seen less but is massive is the kinematics of bikes, and they pedal so well now, but they also absolutely haul downhill. It's like, it blows my mind when I ride my Ripmo how much hammering you can give it and how quickly you can get back up the hill, and especially with flight attendant and these things that they just all help to make it more efficient. So I feel like now the bandwidth of an enduro bike is so much wider than it was in 2013, say. Like for sure. In 2013, you really wouldn't have taken an enduro bike to a downhill race. No. Or an XC race. Whereas now, you could put a set of light wheels and tires on an enduro bike, and you wouldn't be completely out the ass at a XC race. You'd be pretty far back, but you could do it. Yeah. But you could absolutely take it to a downhill race, Yeah, so. Definitely. Yeah, and I feel like it's funny because I almost say that like racing enduro is just racing downhill on a small bike. I think Eddie Masters, was it Eddie? It was either him or one of the other boys was explaining enduro as like long form downhill. Yeah, it can be. I think there was a point we got too close to that. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely, it can be, and multiple times, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Some of the stuff was pretty gnarly. Like I remember in the early days, Sam Blenkinsop did a bit of switching between enduro and downhill, and someone asked him which was gnarlier, and he was like, for sure enduro. You don't know where you're going. You've got less suspension, less protection, and you're sending it. Yeah. Whereas in downhill, by the time you get to a race run, you know every inch of where your tires are going to be. Oh yeah. It's all pre-planned, premeditated. So like, yeah, enduro's, it's gnarly in different ways. Someone put it well to me once that downhill is so impressive because it's so fast, whereas enduro, it's fast for the trail. Yeah. Which is, it's harder to translate and harder to see, Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know. You can go so deep in that type of thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I completely lost where I was going with that. Anyway, when we're talking about flight attendant, you mentioned.
I was going to say it was bikes.
Yeah,
the question. I steered off.
Flight attendant. You mentioned. Have you done much with the electronic suspension? Are you riding that at the moment, or?
Yeah. I had flight attendant all last year.
Yeah.
Still have it now. Yeah.
And you're racing with that still, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so impressive. Like it doesn't affect the descending ability of the bike at all.
Yeah.
But then anytime you're pedaling, going uphill, whatever, it'll read your power and lock or go into pedal mode. But the thing I use the most in racing is the override. So on my shifter, I could just flick a button and I have it that it'll go into pedal mode.
Okay.
So if there's like a pumpy section, or even like in Loudonville, there was a case where we had like a kind of like a motocross style wall jump.
Yeah.
That in the back of it was just a compression to massive bottom out. And I just flicked this and my bike just
absorbed it.
Was way firmer, and it just went doosh and it carried on.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, I use it quite a lot in racing. Actually, it's quite a help.
You're not overthinking about it. It just like happens pretty naturally. It's kind of like shifting gears, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And you would kind of plan it beforehand, so I'll know that. I'll switch it on here and I'll switch it off there. And I wouldn't use it a whole lot because the automatic stuff does a lot of the work for you as well. It's only in cases where, for example, pumping through a flat section.
Yeah.
Where I want to make it lock.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, as I say, it's working in the retail world and then like just talking with different people. It's always so interesting hearing everyone's different opinions about it. But I feel there's so many hot takes and everyone's like, oh, it's an XC thing, it's this, it's that. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like...
Yeah, like just climbing up a hill, your bike's just fully solid.
Yeah.
It's so efficient. And I think the thing I've noticed is you don't realize how much it's doing until you ride without it. And then you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm moving so much here.
Yeah, it's insane. But yeah. One thing I wanted to talk to you about is like stuff you're doing off the bike. I feel like anybody that's going to follow you on Instagram, anybody that follows any of the social medias, the racing, the whatever, they really only see that side of you. What are you doing in the off season? Does your life revolve around the bikes? Like, I know I speak to some people and it's like, yeah, I just get on and I ride my bike every day because I enjoy it. Like, and it just happens to be that that's my job. But like, then I know other people that are like, oh yeah, like I don't touch the bike for like a month of the year and I just go surfing every day. And it's like, how does that look for you being in Ireland? And obviously the weather plays a big part in that as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's changed over the years, I would say. Like I used to come home from the season burned out and I would park the bike for 3-4 weeks and just go be a normal person, and go to the pub at the weekends and just hang out with my friends and do other stuff, and maybe a bit of running would be my exercise kind of outlet. And after 3 or 4 weeks, I'd be like, right, I really want to ride my bike now, and then I'd take it out again. But as the years have gone on, I've kind of learned to enjoy the training more and enjoy the climbing, the uphills, the less fun stuff, you could say, and also find a balance with in-season life. So now I get to the end of the season and I still just ride. Like I'll maybe take a week where I'm just knackered from the end of the season, but yeah, like I just love biking now. I always have, but now it's kind of more of a healthy relationship, you could say, where I don't really get burnt out with it. And even last season, our season finished earlier, so I did like an XC marathon race in October, and I had like a 6-week block where I was just like, oh, I'm just going to train, like no coach, no plan, just listen to my body and go ride what I want to ride. And I ended up just doing like a massive 6 weeks.
Yeah, wow.
And that was not because I had to, it was just because that's what I wanted to do. So yeah, like I'm living in the French Alps now as well, so you've that element of exploring a new place.
Yeah.
Which at that time of year, when you're not tied to a training plan, you can go do some big exploration rides.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't matter if you go do a couple of 1,000 meter climbs and like then the next day you can just lay in bed completely shattered. Like,
yeah, exactly. And like that's like training when you're on the plan, like it's obviously tough training, but you can't just go out and do this massive mission that you kind of wanted to do because you're like, that doesn't really fit with the training, and you'll be tired for 3 days after. So when the season's finished, I'm like, right, I'm going to go do the massive mission now.
Yeah. Does that give you something to look forward to throughout the season of like knowing, okay, like once I get to this point, I can go and do these like crazy rides and sort of epic things? Is that?
Yeah, for sure. And I'd quite often, yeah, like you'll just see an event pop up in the off season. You're like, oh, cool, I'll go do that. And I also ride many different types of bikes, and I think that keeps it interesting, exciting for me. So, you know, whether it's a road bike, XC bike, trials moto, I've had motocross, moto enduro bikes over the years, and yeah, you'll then be excited to get onto those different types of bikes, you know?
Yeah. Is that, I was going to ask you how you kept things balanced, but that sort of, I guess, answers that question a little bit in the sense of like, you don't always ride the enduro bike or the one particular bike. It's pretty solid mix.
Yeah, and I do try mix it up as well, because I find if I ride the race bike every day, you know, you'll go suspension testing and you'll set up your suspension for race pace.
Yeah.
And then you go ride it middle of a heavy training block when you're tired, and you won't be riding with the same strength and intensity, so the bike might feel bad. And then you might be like, oh, maybe my setup's bad or blah, blah, blah. And you can kind of develop bad habits with the bike. So I try to be like, if I'm on my enduro bike, I'm riding it well, I'm riding it fast. And I'm riding it to suit that kind of race setting and mentality. So then, you might take the e-bike, the short travel bike, whatever, and mix it up for certain sessions.
Yeah. Do you ever have a second bike that is set up slightly softer? Or you try and just avoid that altogether, and it's like race bike is race bike, and then all the other bikes are...
Yeah, no, I do for sure. Like I have a train and a race bike, and in winter, setup would definitely be softer.
Yeah.
But as you get closer to the season, I try just keep it, because those bikes, race trainer bike, they're identical, really.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, like this time of year now, as the season's approaching, like if I'm on the race bike, it's the race bike with the race setup.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, as I say, it's always interesting hearing about how people balance what's happening throughout the year, what events, where it is, what bikes you're riding, and things like that. Like just finding that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have different approaches. Like I don't know how many people do that, but I think for me, it's always worked well, and it's, you know, you throw your leg over that bike, and you're like, right, we're gonna have some fun today. Yeah, it's not like, all right, here we go again, you know. Yeah.
Do you ever think about swapping bikes throughout the season? I know I was speaking with, was it Ellie? I think it was with Ellie, and she was saying I stick with the one bike throughout the entire, and talking more races, but like one bike throughout the entire race season, then it just takes that choice out of my mind. When you go to certain tracks, are you thinking about the style of track, whether it needs to be a slightly less travel or a slightly more travel, or?
Yeah, I do like to explore the options. Like, for example, last year, I raced the Rip Mode the whole season, but the first two races I ran Super Deluxe Lyric suspension with a shorter travel fork. And then for the races after those, the first two were Pietra and Poland, so I knew they're not the steepest, fastest, gnarliest. And then after that, I beefed up to the Zeb and the Vivid, so I kind of had a more burly version of the same bike. Yeah. Which was nice. I have in the past been torn between bikes, mainly because you're trying to... You might have two models that are quite close and they each do different things well, and it's hard to decide which one is best, you know. How do you find swapping out the fork? I know when I've done that, it's always like a bit of a change, and like going to that bigger fork, like jumping into the Zeb versus the Lyric. Yes, it's way more direct, but I feel like you have to swing off the handlebars so much more. Do you find that, or are you pretty comfortable now swapping out those sort of things? Yeah, pretty comfortable, to be fair. And I think as well, like in that case, the terrain was changing as well. So the tracks got burlier, my bike got burlier. Yeah. Kind of matched. Just matching everything up to make it work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like at the moment with the new RockShox stuff, like I've been bouncing between the two setups to kind of test them both back to back and decide. And yeah, it hasn't really been an issue. Kind of, they both do different things well, and it's just choosing which suits you better. Yeah, fair. Something I kind of want to ask you about, without diving into it too deep, or as deep as we can, I guess, is the stats and like the training. And I know you've spoken a lot about like how, and you've mentioned in the past, like, don't copy me in the sense of a training program, but I feel like you've always been around like Garmin and those type of people, and had body statistics and stuff like that. Is that something that sort of interests you a lot, or how heavy do you dive into those like body stats? Yeah, quite a bit. I do like the numbers. I'm learning to know when is the time for the numbers and when is not, because you can go down a rabbit hole and, like I follow road cycling and you just see all these numbers popping up and they're massive and you're like, oh, I want those numbers. And you're like, I don't need those numbers. They're not racing enduro. Like,
Yeah.
Tadej Pogacar wouldn't be very good at the stage in Canazay.
Yeah.
He'd be unbelievable getting to the top of it. But yeah, you shouldn't try to compete with those guys. But yeah, I do like the body metrics and everything, and I find they help as well, because you're essentially building your training plan to be as close to the limit as you can sustain.
Yeah.
And if you then throw in factors like a bad night's sleep or travel or whatever, and those stresses on the body might tip you over the edge. So, having the Garmin and these things tells you when that is and kind of gives you a warning before you dig yourself into a hole and maybe get sick or fatigued or whatever. So I feel like it's helped me stay on the right side of that line.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's definitely interesting following heart rate patterns and that side of things. Is that what you're looking at mainly, or is it just following the fatigue levels? And
it's kind of a balance, like its HRV would be the main one to look at. Body battery from Garmin is useful. But there's also the feeling, and knowing as well, like sometimes it's kind of in the plan to be tired, and deep winter you want to build up a bit of fatigue resistance. So it's planned that you're going to wake up and feel a bit tired and you need to crack on anyway.
Yeah.
But as you're getting to the races and you want to be fresher, you want to be fresh. You don't want to be waking up tired, and you kind of have to balance feeling physically and mentally as well, because you can get mentally fatigued and it can feel like a bit more of a chore. So you need to avoid that, obviously. Yeah,
definitely. I know with my own training and then with like coaching athletes and things like that, it's like, how do I explain it without it sounding dumb? But like, the number is there, but then also matching the number to the way your body feels as well. Because it's so easy to wake up and look at your watch and it's like, oh yeah, you're minus whatever into fatigue, but then you feel awesome.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Like you're just into that fatigue level. And I always found that myself is like, let's say minus 10, I felt like super bad, but then minus 20, I actually felt a lot better at the deeper I got into that fatigue a little bit, especially in like, as you say, that winter training.
Yeah.
You kind of just learn to push through it, as you say, like, and that was something I remember one of my coaches telling me is like, start to match those numbers with the body feeling and then understand less about off the bike when you first wake up, but then like how it feels once you're on the bike and matching that feeling then.
Yeah, exactly. Because quite often you might wake up and your watch tells you you're dead and you get on the bike and after 20 minutes you feel bad starting.
Yeah.
But after you get a warm up and you get the blood flowing, you actually feel quite good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's learning these things, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. One thing I wanted to get into a little bit is some of these new events that are coming out, like your Red Bull Hardlines and stuff like that. I wanted to get your opinion on that, just because they're so different, they're so new, obviously pushing the sport. It's a little different to what you're doing on the bike yourself, but where do you see that, like, in the world? Like, I feel like you've been around enough to see a lot of these different events. Obviously, you've done a little bit with the Moto World side of things as well. Like, how do you feel about some of these events?
Yeah, I think they're cool. I think they're exciting. I think anything that brings mountain biking onto new people's screens and in front of new people's eyes is a good thing. I think, Hardline as an example, it's amazing to watch. It's creating good racing now as well, which is really cool. I think that's maybe something that in the early years it was more about piecing a full run, and now it's becoming a race with guys like Ronan they're fully racing, aren't they?
So, those guys are insane.
Yeah, so as fans, it just gives us even more racing to watch. So, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting, like, not physically being there, but just, like, seeing it on TV. Like, some of the stuff that they're doing is just insane. Like, some of those drops and the bigger gaps. Like, there was one in Tasmania that was, like, a 60-foot gap, which realistically, in a race run, is not out of the question. But the speed that they're hitting it at and the time in the air is so short because of the speed that they're at is pretty crazy. Yeah,
and it's an interesting one with the mind game thing as well. Those guys, a lot of in the World Cup season, they're battling each other and they're rivals. But that race, they all have so much respect for the course.
Yeah,
that they help each other. and they'll work out the speed together, and by the time out the final people are hitting the jump, I think they have it really well calculated of like, okay, you need to do this, this and this, and then you have enough speed and you'll make it over this. And it's cool to see that camaraderie out of them as well.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that inside line in Tasmania? Maybe it was 2 years ago where Jackson saw it on the live feed that Troy did, and then did it. And I know there was a bit of controversy where it was like, oh yeah, like I think that's where the game changed with those guys from helping each other to, right, this is an actual race now.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of, I don't know too much about the controversy, honestly, but I felt like it was just a whole racing situation, really. So I don't really know where the controversy stemmed from.
I just remember hearing a couple of the riders being upset that like they were sharing lines all week and like working with each other. And then a couple of riders were, I wouldn't say upset, but almost frustrated that there was definitely lines being held back, which at the end of the day, they're racing for money.
Well, they're racing to win, yeah.
Yeah, racing to win. There's a lot on the line.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just heard that there was like a few people who are annoyed that like the whole thing wasn't shared versus that. But like in my mind, I feel like it's a little different when you're like there's a racing line and then there's like hitting a 70 or an 80 foot gap. Like there's a difference.
Yeah. I think that's just a racing line. And yeah, I think generally when someone's on the wrong side of that, it's quite easy to not be happy about it, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Have you ever been in a situation like that where you've seen somebody do something and had to pull it out in a race run?
Yeah, for sure there has been stuff like that. Because with Enduro, you do one practice run. So you can easily miss lines, but also the track can develop a lot from when you practice to your race. So yeah, you might see someone doing something, or you might hear like, oh, the track has changed, so like that corner you now need to stay high and do such and such. So yeah, there's definitely an element of playing it live in Enduro. I think more so than downhill. One story I have from the early days was with Richie Rude in Scotland one year. I think it was 2015. And it was a 2-day race, and after the first day, Richie was first, I was second. There was a second between us. Yeah. And we were riding up Sunday morning to the first stage, and we were passing by the last stage of the race. And out of the blue, Richie was like, "Oh, did you see they changed the tape on that section?" And I was like, "Oh no, I didn't." He's like, "Oh, like that inside line is gone." And I was like, "Oh crap, I was doing the inside." And there was just 2 lines on the corner, and for some reason the tape got moved. And he was like, "Oh, we'll go and have a look at it." And he showed me it, and I was like, "Wow, fair play," because in that moment, that was the difference between us. Yeah. And like a lot happened in the race, so it wasn't by the time we got there, but like, I was like, "Oh, fair play. That's a good showing it. Sign of sportsmanship."
That's a gentleman play there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so fair play to him.
Yeah, no, definitely. Before we wrap this up, is there anything that you think we missed?
Don't know. I guess we haven't talked much about the current Enduro.
Yeah.
Future of Enduro, that kind of thing. I feel like it's a hot topic. So many people are asking me about it these days.
Yeah, I guess dive into that a little bit. Like, I feel like Enduro's been around for 10, 12 years? More now, I guess.
This is his 13th year, I think.
Yeah. So we've got almost a full generation of Enduro racers now. Like, as you say, you've got like Leaf, you've got Elliot, like there's a bunch of the guys that are coming out of under 21s that are sort of always been in that Enduro world from day one, like, and they're very specific with what they're doing, and like Elliot's just killing it at the moment, and Leaf's on his way up there as well. Where do you see that future of Enduro? Because I feel like it's gone through a bit of a wave, and there was a low point the past few years, and I feel like it's coming back.
Yeah, I think there's been so many changes for Enduro in the format and the riders, and at the start there was pure Enduro riders that were they'd been racing Enduro anyway. EWS came along, they were ready, and then a breed of downhill riders came in, and it kind of shuffled up a bit, and things got more serious, and that kind of pushed some of the blind pure Enduro riders out of it. And there was also a time when it went, maybe in my opinion, a bit too downhill, and we got a lot of downhill riders. Whereas now it's balanced out quite nicely actually the last couple of years. And last year, in my mind, the demands of the racing was pretty spot on with what enduro should be. You know, it was physical, it was long days, but it was also every kind of bike skill was needed to do well. And that's where these pure enduro guys, you know, shine. Like, I think now it would be hard for someone to step from another discipline into enduro and be at the top, which is a really cool place to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, from what I've heard, the plans are positive for the sport. There's a lot of good things in the pipeline. Things are moving well. Hopefully, it seems like the industry is getting a bit more of a stable footing, so that should start seeing some support come back in. I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Is getting the support, especially for riders like Elliot and Leaf, and you know, this new breed of enduro riders that, to the people not in the inner circle of enduro, maybe don't know well enough, in my opinion. And your William Brodys, and there's just so many that deserve the limelight and deserve the support that hopefully the industry can kind of come back in and put support around these riders and help them to get even better,
to help it grow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I feel like with the way, let's just call it the politics of the sport, has changed. I feel like there's been so much limelight directed back towards the downhill. I feel like XC's always had its own light shined on it with the Olympics and all the rest of it that they do. But yeah, there was a period where, and I guess you're in the main light of that, is like when they had the big like recap videos and the instant after the race videos and all of that. I feel like that is where it'd be sick to get back to. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think like Elliot Heap is the presenter this year.
Yeah.
And like last year there was no presenter. So I think even that already is a big step forwards, and he's a great character. He's been at the top of the sport. He's also hilarious.
Yeah.
So I think that'll inject some good life into it.
Nice.
Which is really cool. So yeah, I think things are moving in the right direction, and it's good to see.
Yeah. How do you feel with like a lot of the YouTube channels popping up from the riders? Like I know Jack had his, like there's a few of the riders are getting into that to help bring that limelight back in.
Yeah, and it's quite unfortunate. Like it's so coincidental, I think, that we lost. Sounds like they died, but like
the changing the guard. Let's call it
the change of the guard, and like Jack, Charlie, Dan Booker, Jesse, Melamed, like a lot of guys that brought a lot of eyes onto the sport, all just kind of happened to retire at the same time. And
yeah,
I think some media outlets kind of jumped on that as clickbait and tried to make stories out of it that it's not. It's I think they all just were happy with what they've done and have moved on to the next thing. So yeah, it's a shame that we'll lose that viewership, say, but I think it puts onus on the rest of us to kind of step up and make the sport shine and help it shine.
It also gives the ability for the audience to change into something else as well, and other people to bring an audience as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And a chance for the new riders to shine more, as well, and get a piece of the limelight.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's I'm pretty excited to see where it goes, because it's I feel like there has been a big change in the guard, like even in the women's side of things, like like with Ella and then Ellie. There's a lot of L's there, but
Simona, Nadine, and Melanie Pujan is back this year.
Yeah,
the women's fields are going to be so good this year.
Yeah,
it's really exciting.
So
and I think a really good step this year as well is the open racing being back, because I think the years where there was the most buzz around enduro, I think that was a really big part of it. Having fans could watch the racing and then be like, oh, I want to do that, and go and do it.
Yeah.
And people from brands as well could come and see where their bikes were getting ridden and raced and experience it and be a part of it, which is really, really cool and really important, I think. And the fact the open racing will be doing the full course. Yeah. You can, like Marion last year was sick. We had some of the best tracks, so you can go and enter that race and ride all those tracks and have the challenge of trying to finish 4 big days on the bike. So I think that's a really positive change.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a bit about that, is like the participation numbers. Like they were so big in the early days, and then obviously, as you say, like those numbers dropped off, but there was an obvious reason for that, and it is kind of cool to see them coming back. But like, do you feel a big change with that in the way that the event is run?
Yeah, for sure. And like there's so many, it's when you like speak to the organisers and Warner Brothers, you realise there's always a reason why things happen. And like in terms of participation numbers, the more riders you have at a race, the shorter the course has to be as well. So like if your first rider starts at 8 a.m. and your last rider starts at 10 a.m. on, say, and the field's not that big, you've only got so much daylight to work with to get that last rider to the finish before dark. Whereas if you can get everyone out in an hour, you have another hour of riding time. So you can have an even bigger course. So there's all these elements that need to be considered. So yeah, I think for sure it has changed over the years, and it's good to see it going back to, it'll be what we expect would be a big entry on the amateur side, but then maybe a smaller field, or the same as it has been the last couple of years on the professional side, which kind of gives us more room to do even more.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, which is nice.
Cool. Well, on that note, let's wrap this up before they kick us out of here.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks for giving us the time to chat.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for chat. It's always good to chat bikes, isn't it?
Yeah, bench racing at its best.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.